I talk about style of energy all the time, so I'm very happy that Robin brought this up. So let's get started. So thank you, Robin. So, first of all, I always say energy, and I use that as a nickname. I call them my energies, I call it style of energy, all those things, because if you think about it, I use it as a verb or a description or getting to know yourself. So we're made up of ourself, right? So it's like it would be a soul. And people say spirit, they say soul, they say all those words. And to me, energy in that way, in movement, because otherwise, if I just say, if I get so super specific, it could be specific to a scenario we're talking about, which would be okay. But if I got super specific when we're talking about like bigger picture things, we would miss out. So I always say energy. And also, I noticed that a lot of people in the past, now not, because everyone who is a match to me has been coming. Everyone's so magical. But in the past, there were trolls or people who got very upset and they didn't really need to be in the space, like they didn't care or want it. And so when I said energy and things like that, it didn't resonate. They're like, you mean energy bill? Or, like things like that. So yeah, we could pick words apart, but we can also name things. So that's also why I like to do that. I know people do say energy and they say energy work, but they don't say it in an action usually, in the sense of the act of getting to know yourself. And so that's all I do, is help you get to know yourself. And it's not the typical know yourself. It's the mapping of every version of you that is that makes sense to your life right now. So the reason why I say this, I say this example a lot. I'm still going to repeat it because it's relevant and I think it makes sense. You can think of us like, okay, so when you plug in, this is also why I say energy. When you plug in an appliance or you plug in your computer, there's energy coming through, there's electricity, and you pay a bill to the electricity. And it comes through all these different processes to get to you, right? And to get to your device. Now, having that style of energy, it's like you can think of it like we had different types, almost like a car when you have different types to put the gas in the car. So it's kind of like that. And it's constant. It's not something you have to get. It's not that. It's all our awareness is what makes us think that we're getting things and we have to achieve stuff. It's because that is what that POV feels like as a human, but in reality you have it already, right? So in this case, when we're talking about styles of energy, it can mean so many different things depending on what stage you're in. So for example, if you have I talked about libraries in a recent video. If you have a library that is only the typical library of the country you're living in, so it's like references like that, basically, and you don't have your own references that you've made, your style of energy and if I started talking to someone, would be like they would start to say, oh, well, I have the style of a teacher or something like that. They would pick things that are not something that they've started to create themselves and who they are really. And so you will hear, depending on if the person is doing a shared library, they're vibing with you, or they actually made their library. Like, it's like, they made that, they're like, okay, so when I hear aliens mean this to me. When I hear 19, well, not 19, let's say, they showed me 1770, but I said 19. So 1770, this is what 1770 means to me. I'm aware that 1770 means to the collective a time period with people wearing, huge like dresses and things like that. But to me, what does it mean to me? How does it make me feel when I see these things? Do I like always watch these movies and stuff like that? So as you gather all these different things, I call it the mapping, the soul mapping or energy mapping or getting your origins. It is not an origin like your mom or dad would be your origin. It's not like that. It feels like that, and we might use those languages so it makes sense, but it's actually a map. Your origins are a map. And all the directions, the little roads and rivers and everything that goes around is your style of energy. So that is what holds it together. So, and this is from the perspective of a human, but from a perspective of bigger energies, like huge ones or source, they will see it in a way where you are like in them, like you're them. Like they just think of it like it's just like how you look at your arm. Like it's you don't think like that, oh, that arm has like a class to go to. You're just like, that is my arm, right? That's how it feels from our POV to see their POV, if that makes sense. And I will be doing the meditation so you can feel the different POVs. I just haven't gotten a chance yet, but I can't wait to do them. But yeah, so style of energy is the thread that like kind of, or the map like that you have on the map, the little roads or the thread that ties everything together. That is your style of energy. And so we will live our life cultivating like a little garden and growing that, that knowledge of what actually already exists. So it's kind of like, I talk about the example of us going deeper and going deeper. And by the way, if you're interested in this, I did put it on YouTube. It's a live that I talked about this. I don't remember which one, but there's a few of them and it talks about that. And I think YouTube like helps you understand. I don't know. But if you're interested, it's on there, and I just like throw them on there because it's not my content that I take a lot of time and describe things and make it really easy on Patreon. YouTube is just like, woo! And like, so you could, it's like, if you see it, like whatever, right? I put the date. So if someone because the date is easy for me. But yeah, that's what you get from this random. But anyway, so back on track. So yeah, so when we're talking about those styles of energy, that's what it is. And my specialty, what I do in sessions and all the things I offer, including even my art, like everything, like my presence, is to help people get closer in touch with that style, that stream, that little thread that connects everything. And for example, there is one thing I do. Obviously, I do a lot of steps in sessions and other things like that, and I do ones on live sometimes too. One of the things that's really special is when you start to do inner child work, because your inner child understands a lot of that. Like they don't get what it is, but they understand it as in like they're just doing it. Like they're not, like we're going to be conscious of it when we that's the difference between us now working with an inner child and just us now in general. We are going to be conscious of it and be able to translate it in our everyday life as a human. Another thing to mention, your style of energy can also get confused. It kind of can get confused, and people get one of the ways people get psychosis is this. So what happens is you have a vision. It's very messy. I was talking to my friend about this the other day. It can be really messy when you start remembering and getting your memory keys. Because remember, it's not past the memory. It is a little memory key. So like when you put a flash drive into a computer, it's not remembering it. It's just, it's data, right? That it's its own data. And obviously it's in us already, but we're just doing that analogy so because that's how it feels when you get that information. You're like, oh, it clicks like a little puzzle piece, right? So when I do these analogies, they're based on how it feels and what the experience could feel like to you. So you can kind of go, oh yeah, mine's like a bit different, but yeah. But obviously you have it you have everything. But anyway, and you do it always. But that's what happens is when you first start that memory process, like a lot of people who are like they talk about starseed stuff. There's people who talk about like gods that they see, they're got like a version of them doing things. It gets messy because it's you, but then you're like, oh, I'm that. I'm a reincarnation. I'm a human, and you're using your library of what you know. Like when people talk about reincarnation, they're like, that fits, or a past life and stuff like that. But we don't know that you can think of it like us, like little threads threaded through all of us, and we're all the same, but pretending to be separate little identities. Not pretending, but like acting out separate identities that all kind of bundle together. And so that is what the style of energy is. And I help with finding out what that is. And there's lots of processes. But all of the stuff I do is to learn this. It's to learn how to map out, learn how to learn more about your style of energy, and also all the things you have learned, because a lot of times in spirituality they're very mean about